Okay, I think it is 3:01 Eastern here, so I think this is a good time to get started. So as I mentioned, my name is Josh Whitmer. I'm one of the product managers here at ProjectTeam, and we are, in this new year, 2020, we're throwing together a couple of new different types of webinars. Not only are we going to be showing our typical new release type of webinars, but we're also just going to give more background on what's happening at ProjectTeam, emerging trends that we see, and then also I think there is another webinar next week called a Lunch and Learn for any new users, maybe not that don't have as much experience in the system, and it's going to be more of a click around type of training webinar. So people, one of our lead trainers is going to go through, kind of show you the basics of the system. So I do encourage, if you are not so familiar with ProjectTeam, but you would like to learn more, maybe you're just new to it, to also attend that webinar as well. For this webinar, we're going to be talking about the importance of flexibility within your construction project management system. We hear all the time about, we talk to people every day about what they're coming from, what they're looking for, and a big item that people are now very interested in is just general flexibility. And when we say flexibility, we really mean a couple things. One, customization, being able to just make something from scratch is a big one because everybody is different, and I'll go through that. And then the second is configuration. Configuration means maybe something is already there for you, but you'd like to change that in some way. Maybe you'd like to rename a field that we give you, or maybe there's something that you want to take a workflow, add an extra step into that workflow. Those types of things would be considered configuration. So to start here, I'm going to go through some agenda items. We're going to talk a little bit about the introduction, what we're going through here today, some background on why this is important. Then we'll get into general flexibility. We'll give some examples of 3 different companies that we may have talked to and what they're asking for and how that maybe relates to you all on this call. And then at the end of this, and really throughout the entire presentation, I do encourage you to ask questions. So I think there should be a question box on the right-hand side. If there's anything that I go through that you'd like more information on, we'll try to answer some of those things here on the call, but certainly after the call, we can have somebody follow up with you as well. Before I really get started too much, I want to say that we do have, we're on different social media outlets. It's a good place to kind of go and see what's happening within the company, what other things are, whether they're webinars or events or trainings or live trainings, what things are happening around the ProjectTeam ecosystem. Also, this webinar is being recorded, so everything here, if you know somebody that couldn't make today's presentation or you want to recap after this presentation, we will have a link for you that you can watch later at a later date. So we talk to a ton of companies every day, and really each of those has their own way in their own mind of what a successful construction management platform might look like. Let's say for this example, we're talking to 3 different companies. If we were to ask each of those companies what processes, what form types are most important to you, we really, in most cases, get 3 different answers. So for my example, I'm going to talk about 3 different companies. A blue company here, when we say what's most important to you, they might say things like RFIs, submittals, field reports, contracts, change orders, and maybe payment applications. And that makes sense. Maybe that fits a lot of you on the call. That's exactly what you want to track. If we ask another company, maybe the red company, what do you all expect to track in a good project management system? Some of these things might be consistent, and some might differ. They might say RFIs, submittals, maybe notices or safety notices, daily progress reports, contracts, and maybe they expect to have some kind of delivery ticket system, or as tickets come in, they want to make sure that they're tracking that. And then finally, let's say there's a green company, a third company. again, they say RFIs, which is great, but they might have other things that they need, such as risks, equipment lists, maybe they're tracking equipment on the job as that's coming in, coming out. They do a lot with inspections, so they're going to walk around the job site maybe from their phone, take pictures, upload that into their inspections, material testing, and meetings. So if you look at all three of these different companies, really there's some consistency here, but a lot of the things are actually very different. Even if we look at the things that are consistent, let's say RFIs or submittals, if we dive into those things, we'll see that what they're really asking for might even be different within that single process. So if we take a deeper dive into RFIs, which seems to be the thing that is consistent within these three companies, we will still see different types of answers. So my next slide here, if we say to each company, what does your RFI form look like? Again, before we said what processes do you want to track, that was different. Now let's say within a single process, the RFI process, what does that look like to you? What's your perfect RFI? Similar to our last slide, we might get three different answers. The blue company might say, well, I track an RFI number. That's most important, so that should show up first. And then I say a title, a question, a due date, and then an answer. That's what an RFI looks like. We ask the red company the same thing. They'll say, my RFI says subject first. Then we have an official RFI number, or official number they call it, a due date, a cost impact, and then also a schedule impact. They want to track that maybe within their reports or their dashboards. And then finally, just like previously, a green company might have completely different needs. They track the author RFI number, but some of those don't become official RFIs. So they also want to track an official RFI number. Within that, they have a description, a question, and maybe instead of due date, they call that thing date needed. So three different companies have many different processes that they want to track. And even within a similar process, they might have different needs. Depending on your background and what you're kind of looking for, there are really three different options that you have as someone maybe looking for a software system or a project management system. The first option really isn't a very relevant option, and that is a more lightweight system. You're looking for something that has maybe the basics, but not much else. And the reason you're looking for that is it needs to be $10 a month or something like that. You don't have a big budget. So you want something that is just kind of very, very, very simple. In that case, that would be a lightweight system. You might get a couple things, but you're not getting much. So we just kind of cross that option out for now. The second option, or what I'm going to call option one here, is that you might find a static system that says that they have it all, right? In this case, there are pros and cons of this type of option. From a pro standpoint, if you literally use everything and you don't think you do anything unique, then this system might be a good system for you. However, there are a ton more drawbacks of a we have it all type of system. And in a lot of cases, the problem with that we have it all kind of system is it's a software vendor, a software company that says, I know everything about construction, I'll make it the way I think is best, and you can kind of conform your business processes into the way that I think is best. Of course, that's not usually the best case. So if we go through some of the cons here, a con of a system that says, we've got it all, just kind of put your stuff in our system. Well, in a lot of cases, there's too many unneeded features, too many clicks, too many buttons, too many forms that you just don't use, and all of that turns into confusion. If I'm just a superintendent out in the job site, I don't need to see all this extra stuff. I just want to get the things that maybe are more field-related done. If I'm an owner company, I don't really care about all this more CM or PM type of forms and data input. I just want more of a higher level view. So we're seeing too much, and that's getting confusing to us. The second con is you're stuck setting information or putting in information that they have set up for you. There's no flexibility, so really just find a way to mold your process into that system. Third, well, if there is anything that somebody says or that you say, our intellectual property is we do a great job of managing risk or issues or some kind of process. And the system that we've selected, even though it says it's robust and it's got everything we ever needed, we found a process that it does not have. So what do you have to do? Now you have to rely on something like Microsoft Excel. And the problem with that is you're paying a lot of times a big chunk of change for a system that quote-unquote has it all, and then you can't track everything in one system. So now you have to use Excel. And now you're paying a lot of money for still using Excel. Your data is not integrated. So kind of the second option you have is finding an easy but flexible system. There are many advantages of a more flexible system. The first is you have the basics. Okay, similar to that robust system, but just kind of in a more lightweight way, you've got the basics to get you started kind of in a fast way. You've got maybe RFIs, contracts, change orders, but things that are generally consistent between all the different construction type industry companies. Beyond that, as we saw with those three examples between the blue company, the red company, and the green company, every company, even though they might track similar fields, one calls something RFI number, another calls it official RFI number, one calls it due date, another calls it date needed. There's terminology that maybe you're used to that you want to make sure that you work into a good system. So the thing that you might be looking for is, when we talk about flexibility, one of those bullet points with configuration. You want to be able to configure the fields to fit your terminology. Even though they're there, you still want to tweak them a little bit to make the most sense for you and your users. Third, maybe you want to have something that is your own intellectual property, a unique business process that makes your company great. That's where a custom form comes in. Certainly, something like ProjectTeam can't think of everything that everyone would ever do. So we need to make a system that's super simple so you can just build a custom form and track that information. And that custom form that you have should work like anything else in the system. And being able to flex and configure and add custom forms in any way is really going to kind of minimize or eliminate your reliance on other systems like Microsoft Excel. The benefit there is everything is in one single integrated system. If you're creating reports, if you're creating dashboards, everything works together so you can get the correct outputs without having to export, looking at other systems, kind of managing that information, and then kind of getting some other output that may or might not handle data. Of course, with pros, there are cons. So if I look at a con here, we might say, well, if a system is very customizable and configurable, does that mean I need to spend a lot more time up front configuring that information? And maybe that, in some eyes, is considered a con. The benefit is you set this thing up exactly how you want. The con, in some eyes, is, well, I had to spend time doing that. So how does a system like ProjectTeam get past that? We want to make it super, super, super simple. So what I'm going to kind of go through on this presentation is I want to show you how easy it is to take something, and it's a simple example, but we'll kind of build on the example we started here about RFIs. What if I have an RFI? I'm going to customize that thing, and I'm going to show exactly what it's going to look like to fit my business process. I don't care what ProjectTeam, the software company, says an RFI should be. I want to manage it the way my construction company wants to manage it. So I'll go through that. In ProjectTeam, there's a lot of things that you can do to kind of match your business or match the system to fit your business. We call ourselves an exact fit solution. We can exactly fit a lot of the processes that you already do if you have something that you want to work into the system. Those things come in all shapes and sizes. So one of those is workflows. Another is your forms. You can create any form that you want or build upon any system form that we give you out of the box. You can also manage any kind of print layout, things that we call merge templates. So merge the information from your actual form record or thing that you're filling in within ProjectTeam into any outputs that you want. Another is your preferences. What kind of emails do you want? What do you want your user interface or your dashboard to look like? That's a user preference. You should be able to set that up to make it as simple as possible for you to get in and get your job done well. And then there are dashboards, things like high-level KPIs or key performance indicators that I want to see at a very high-level glance. I see that I've got 2 issues this month on the job. I can click on that number 2 and see kind of in a drill-down way what those issues were. And then finally, there's obviously the need for kind of more robust and tabular reports. So ProjectTeam has a very, very robust reporting engine, and because you can flex the system and kind of configure or customize the system in any way that you need, you can put all that stuff into some really nice reports and formatted visuals there. So for my quick demo today, and I think that we're at about 15 minutes in here, and I promise not to take too long. But for our quick demo, we're going to go through about 4 different things. Okay, I think this will give you a good overview of how flexible the system is, but also how easy and fast it is as well. The first thing we're going to do is get into a project, look at an RFI form, and then we're going to customize that form from scratch. Everything that I will do is done directly from the user interface. There's no need to have any technology background or quote-unquote coding background. It's all just drag and drop, click, and things are added. Then we're going to take that information, now that we've configured it, and it looks the way that I want it to look, and I'm going to import some data. So we can take an Excel document that if you're not using ProjectTeam, you might be using right now in Excel, and just directly import that into the system, and we can put hundreds of records into ProjectTeam very quickly. Then we're going to very quickly take a document that, let's say, my organization already uses. Let's say I'm the blue organization, to continue that example from what we started with. And I'm just going to kind of put in pieces of data to be able to fill out to get something that looks like my custom print output. All of these things I'm going to be doing on the RFI, but you could manage this at any process. So contracts, submittals, custom risk forms or issues, anything that you want to manage, all of what I go over today can be extrapolated to those processes as well. And then finally, once I have all that stuff and it looks great, and I spent the next 15 minutes doing that, you'll see it's not hard to do, but maybe as an administrator within my company, I only want to set that up once. All of my projects are kind of similar, so why not mark that project as a template so that every project going forward just inherits that information or that setup. I'm going to go over to ProjectTeam now and kind of go through those 4 bullet points. I'm starting off at the login page. I'm going to use my email address and my password to log in. Once I do, I'll just click login, and it's going to take me directly to, in this case, my home page. At the top of my screen, I'm going to dive into one of my projects. I do have this sample webinar project ready to go. So I'll click that. Once I get into the project homepage, I see a bunch of different processes, the things that maybe that red, blue, green company wanting to track on the project. All of this is very configurable, but I see the things that are most important to me. Let's say I'm part of the blue company right now. I wanted to track things like RFIs and submittals. For the example that we were talking about, let's go into the RFI, and I want to show you how to configure that RFI to exactly match what I want it to look like. So all I'm going to do is click into RFI, and I get to an RFI log that doesn't have anything in it right now. Okay, this will eventually show all of the RFIs that I have access to on the project. Right now, it's a brand new project. I don't see any of these things. Before I start to add in my RFIs, or let's say my users out in the field, or maybe my subcontractors, or whoever I'm working with, and whatever my workflow might be, before they start to add these RFIs, I want to make sure that the data or the fields that they need to put in there to populate my reports in the best way are added in there. So before adding an RFI, let's go in and customize this RFI form to add the exact fields that we need. Next to the print button, we have an option, and depending on your access, let's go ahead and add custom form fields. When I do that, I get to the form properties of my RFI form type. Here I see I've got a couple of default fields, subject, question, and answer. There's a few more that I'm going to want to add. The first one is going to be RFI number. The second is going to be a due date, and then a cost impact, and maybe a schedule impact as well. To add a new field, at the top of the form fields panel, there's a button to add new. There's also a button to reorder and quick access, and I can talk about that in a second. I'm just going to say I want to add a brand new field, and this time it's going to be an RFI number field. So I'll say new. I've got a whole bunch of different field types that I can add to my form type. For now, I see a number. I do have the option to make it an auto number if I wanted to, but for this example, I'm just going to say it's going to be single line text, which is going to allow me to add numbers and text characters and any other symbol that I want. So I've got a single line text, I'll say next. Here, I'm going to call this thing RFI number. So that's what the blue company wanted to say. I can say next. I can set field level access to this field if I wanted to. For now, in this example, I'll skip this step and just say add in new. The second field that I want to add is a due date field. So from my list, I see a bunch of different field types. The one that's going to make most sense for me is due date, or date field for due date. I'm going to say next. Call this thing due date. I'm kind of setting up my form at this point, but you'll see once I start to add actual RFIs, a date field is going to pull up like a calendar picker so I can choose dates. I've got just a couple more fields here. The first is going to be a cost impact. I want that to show up as currency, and we can change our currency within ProjectTeam to be US dollars or Canadian dollar, etc. But for now, we're going to default at US dollar. We're going to scroll down. We're going to say we want to add a number, currency number field. So next, call this thing cost impact. So next. And then one more time, we have one more field to add. This time it's going to be a schedule impact. This might just be a checkbox that says, yes, there is some schedule impact in here. We could also add a number, the number of days or hours or whatever you want to track that might be impacted by this RFI. For now, I'm just going to say checkbox, so I'll choose that, say next, call this thing schedule impact, and finally say next and save. You can see now that I have all of these fields added by myself at this time and date. They show up great. The thing that I want to do before I actually start working in my RFIs now, though, is kind of reorder the look of this on my form. It shows subject, question, answer, RFI number, etc. down my list. I want RFI number to show up first, and I want due date to be above my answer. All we have to do is say reorder. I can take RFI number, just drag that way above my subject. And then I can take due date and put that right above my answer. If I save this now, you can see my list is going to reorder. Now I've got RFI number, subject, question, due date, etc. That looks great. If I go back up on my properties and go back to my form log, I get back to my form log that says I don't have any RFIs in here. And now I can add my first RFI, and it's going to show me those fields that we just added, including things like checkboxes or date fields that are going to pull up your calendar picker. Instead of manually creating my RFI, let's say that I'm coming from something like Excel or another system, and I have some kind of CSV, and it's got 100 different RFIs in it, it would be fine, but also a tedious process to go in and manually add all these things one by one. We do offer the ability to batch import information. So I've configured my RFI in some way that shows this RFI number and the due date, etc. Now I can take, let's say, an existing spreadsheet that I have, batch import this information, download a template depending on the fields that maybe you set up, and then upload that thing back into the system. So let's go say upload. I'll say RFI that came from, let's say, another system. Open that, and now I can go back to my RFI log, and I've got all of these RFIs right here. It's just, I think, 7 of them. So all of these RFIs are not showing in my log. So easy to customize and then import information very quickly. The last thing that I want to do here on the log view is configure my log. I've got the subject showing up by default, and that's great. But really, I want to be able to search on, let's say, the RFI number. So I want to configure this log to look the way that I'm used to looking at it. I can go over to the more option here, say configure log this time. I want to include RFI number. Maybe I also want to include due date, cost impact, and schedule impact. So I just check those boxes. I'll leave question and answer unchecked because those things are a little bit more text and I don't really need to see that in my log. And I'll say save. Once I do, that information now is showing up in my log. So again, very easy for me to customize, import, and configure my log. This is the log view. If I actually click into one of these, let's say bus pad design standards, it's going to take me to more information about what this RFI is. Okay, so I see all these fields. I see who it's shared to. I see the action items. I can also scroll all the way down, and I see something like the attachment panel, which I can take whatever might be on my desktop and just drag that into the attachment panel, and you'll see those things upload pretty quickly. So I built my RFI now, but this doesn't necessarily look like the RFI that I'm used to. I want to see something that is a piece of paper that maybe somebody filled this out on the computer, but eventually I need to be able to send some kind of official RFI letter or some piece of paper looking thing that is more legitimate than just what the system looks like. That would be a print layout or what we call a merge template. So I'm going to go into the forms area here while staying on my RFI. I'm going to search for something called merge and right click to open up a brand new merge template form. In here, because I have this new project, I don't have any merge templates yet, so I'm going to add a brand new one. I'm going to say create merge template. I'm going to call this my RFI output. And then it's going to say what form types is this going to pull fields from, and I'm going to say request for information because that's the form type that we've been working on so far. Again, everything that I'm doing could also have been done on any other different document type. This is showing me fields that give me little codes that I can kind of cut or copy and paste into any document that I have. I'm going to open up my files here, and I do have a document that I'm going to look through really quickly. Okay, called my output example. Okay. This thing, because I'm the Blue Company, has been set up in a way that this is what I usually think about when I actually talk about my RFI. In most cases, I print this out, and maybe somebody's filling this out with a pen and paper out in the field. But from now on, I want to do this maybe from my mobile device or my computer. And then after it's filled in on ProjectTeam, I want to still be able to get this nice output. So I'm going to drag this to the right-hand side. And I'm going to take ProjectTeam here, and I have my field code ready for me to kind of copy and paste into my document. All I have to do is take these fields, so RFI subject, just copy, put it into here, and then Control-V to paste. RFI number, I'll copy. I'll find a way that makes sense in my document, and Control-V to paste. Cost impact, I'm just going to kind of follow this process. Control-V to paste that in there. Schedule impact, copy, put that in there. And then I have 3 more. One for RFI question, so I'll copy RFI question, put that in there. A due date, copy that, just kind of copy and paste right in there. And then finally, one more, response to RFI. So that's actually going to be called my question. And we could rename that however we want, but that makes no sense to me. All I've done is kind of copy and paste from ProjectTeam, which gives you the codes already, right into your Word document. This could have also been done on Excel, PowerPoint, or PDF, and then I can just save this. Okay, that's saved. I'm going to open back ProjectTeam now. All I have to do in ProjectTeam is say next, upload that document that I just added, this RFI output example. Got to upload in, says it looks good, finish that, and now my document is loaded into ProjectTeam. What does that mean? If I go back to my RFI, this bus pad design standard, the thing that we worked on and we configured the log, now this is available to pull into that merge template that we just created. So I'm going to say print, merge to a template. There's my RFI output that we literally just added. Say next. Do I want to include any attachments in this output? For now, I'll say no, but you could certainly include your attachments. And then say merge. It'll take a couple seconds here. Recognize the fields that have been filled out in my form. Take the template that I have with my blue colors and my logo, all that, and then output it to the exact template that I need with my company logo in there. I've got my question, my answer, my due date, whatever else I wanted to include on this output. So everything that I've done is extremely configurable. You can kind of take what your process is right now and work that into exactly the way you still work, but just kind of mold pricing to fit those business processes. From here, now that I have this output, I can just simply save and download this, or I could email this to any email address that I want, which will send this as an attachment in this case PDF to that email address. The last thing that I want to do, and I know we're 3 minutes over the 3:30 time, is just show you how easy it is. Now that I've set up this project, in this case just the RFI, now that I've set this thing up exactly how I want it to work, I actually want it to work the same on all of my projects. So I'm going to cancel this for now. I can just go to the project homepage. I can scroll down to the project details. And then I can just check a box to say, you know what, now I want to make this project a template project, and all projects going forward should be able to inherit what has been set up since this template project. So that's everything that I wanted to go through on today's webinar. I'm going to open this back up and kind of show a last slide here. What we did is we talked about customizing, we configured our log, we talked about the importance of flexibility, just because not every company is different. We talk to companies all the time here. Everybody says, you know, there's not a perfect system for me until they see something like ProjectTeam, and then they say, wait a second, so you mean I can build all of those things into the system? And the answer is yes. All of that needs to be very, very simple. We've gone through a lot of different processes to make sure that everything that we do is simple, easy to use for all users going forward. One question that we have here, and feel free to ask questions, is are forms log view specific? Yes, there's a lot of user preferences that you can set up. As administrators, there's things that you can do to kind of make a consistent log view for different users, but a user can kind of define what log views they want to see, what information from a log is most important to them. Another question, yes, we talked about this on RFI, so this same process is available on other types of forms like contracts and submittals and field reports, all of that. You could, everything that I also did here, I used an existing form in RFI. I could have created a brand new form from scratch, added an attachment, pulled that into a report, made a custom output for that, and everything that I showed in just a very quick, 10 minutes, 15 minutes is also available on those. So you can see everything that we've done is very, very simple, easy to do, and certainly doesn't take much time. You're not reliant on the ProjectTeam services people to do that for you. it's easy enough that you can kind of go in and do that yourself. I think that's it for questions. That's all I have for you today. I really appreciate everybody that is on here. If there are additional questions, feel free to reach out to me or any other member of the ProjectTeam team. Whoever you're talking to, that is your point of contact. Thank you all for joining, and we look forward to hosting another webinar. Thank you.